So, where and when were you born?
I was born in Prasuti Griha Hospital in Thapathali, Kathmandu. I was born in 1998, 28th June.
So that makes you the crab, Cancer, in terms of your astrological sign.
Yeah, yeah,
And
Cancer.
do you identify with being someone who really likes home, who can be very sensitive? How would you describe yourself to someone who doesn't know you?
For me, I describe myself as like fearless, like who wants to do, like who thinks that something needs to be done and something needs to be done by people. Like I do that things. And second one is being empathetic, like to know what is going around with other people's souls and what they are feeling, what they are going through. And third one is optimistic, like I know the bad things are happening, there are negatives all around, but there is a still positive and right things also, if we can see that. So I believe myself as an optimistic person too.
Kathmandu has kind of gotten famous for being so polluted and so smoggy. So you've grown up seeing the city get more and more polluted. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yeah. Kathmandu is listed as top 3 polluted cities in terms of air pollution. So I have grown up living with this pollution.
And then how do you exercise or, you know, play sports with that kind of air pollution?
It's like we don't go usually outdoors, like because there is so much air pollution and also the waste problem is major for Kathmandu. But we play sports in our homes around, just like around the homes area, not just outside in the ring road area or in the place which is polluted, but only around our homes and only in specific areas that is designated for playing and surrounding people's.
And what kind of sports can you play indoors like that?
It's like Ludo, chess, and sometimes badminton. These are mostly famous for us.
Is you're a badminton player?
Yeah, I love playing badminton.
Uh-huh. Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have one brother who is 16.
Mm-hmm. And is he interested in environmental issues as well as you?
Whom my brother.
Mm-hmm.
He is like a typical growing young man, like who doesn't care as much about his family, about his education, but he cares about environment. He loves pet. He usually loves dog, fish, cat. He always wants to keep it with him. Like so, because of him, we have always one living animal with us. Maybe it be fish or cat or dog, sometimes like that.
Mm.
And now we have a tortoise in our home, small tortoise. He keeps it and he keeps on playing with him.
Oh.
With it.
Where are you in terms of your education?
Now I am pursuing my bachelor's degree in environmental science. I'm in my fourth year, like last year.
And in Kathmandu or where?
Yeah, in Kathmandu, in Lalitpur. The name is Tribhuvan University, Patal Multiple Campus, and I'm reading there.
Mm-hmm. Are instructions in English in secondary school and university?
Mostly we use English language because this is an international renowned language and it is also important for further career. Uh, but in our teaching, when we read, because it will be a bit hard for us to study in English only, so that there will be both language, English and Nepali both, so that we can understand it well.
Oh, so you have textbooks in both Pali and English?
Yeah, most of them are in English. Now we have all in English, but there is a separate book of Nepali and Nepali grammar. We read that.
Mm-hmm. And when you were in elementary school, was instruction in English too?
Yeah, it's like there are schools, like private and public schools. In private schools, the education is mostly done in English language, and in public, it is mostly in Nepali language. And I read in a local private school, so that my education it was mostly depended on English language.
Mm. At home, do you kind of go back and forth to kind of a s- a mixture of English and Nepali speaking? Or
In home we just speak Nepali because there will be no need of English.
mm,
We feel Nepali is more homely, like more own language. That's why we speak just Nepali language in home.
right. And when you graduate soon with a degree in environmental science, excuse me, what kind of work will you go into?
It's like I am doing my bachelor's. This is my last year, so uh, I want to continue my master's in environmental science only, with taking major subject as climate change, and also equally with it, I will be involving myself in several kinds of this grassroots environmental campaigns, and also uh, I want to engage with the students of local school, like who are young and who don't know much about what is happening around. So I want to spend my time also teaching them, like from the home, like from their young age, like what is happening, what is needed, why we need to preserve, and why we need to love the environment, why every living beings in the environment is important, and what an individual can contribute for this. So I want to engage myself in those things.
Hmm. Um, if you do research in a particular area, like a specialty, like writing a thesis, what kind of topics would be of interest to you in a specialty in environmental science?
It's like when I started this activism and when I started to speak for climate action, it was because I knew about the peoples in the upper Himalayan region, like who were forced to migrate from their own village due to drought and due to extreme events. So if I got an opportunity, and I want to do that in my PhD studies, but if I got the opportunities very soon, that I will be doing the research in the upper Himalayan region of Nepal, like where there is extreme weather and where the peoples mostly are more vulnerable and most impacted by the changing climate and changing environment. So I want to study the changes in the life patterns and what impacts have been brought by the changing climate, and what are the socio-economic impacts and what are the mental effects they are going through. So I want to study, and also what is the trend, like of changing climate, and what is the impact with the changing climate versus the impact. So I want to be engaged in this.
People say that women and children bear the brunt of climate change. Have you found that in your work, that they suffer more than men from climate change?
Yeah, it's like though climate change doesn't differentiate, like the different ages people, but because children and women and especially the elder peoples also, they are mostly impacted because it's like in case of women, they are more responsible to carry the homeworks, like fetching water, cooking food, bringing the firewood, bringing fodders, and taking care of the children, families. So due to the changing climate and the increase in the a number of extreme events and droughts, and the drying of the nearby water resource, the decrease in the agricultural production, and that will ultimately cause the economic production, like economic activity to be decreased. And so that may force the men and the young, like youth uh, within their families to go away in another country, in another place to earn money. So the family pressure and the burden will be increased in women, like this case. And also in Nepal, like the case of that is what we call that uterine prolapse, that is mostly due to carrying huge loads of water in huge distance. So that is mostly prevalent in women of Nepal, in women case. And
Wait, excuse
it's
me,
because
carrying water does what health problem?
it's like a uterine prolapse.
Oh, so it affects the uterus. Oh, I've never
Yeah,
heard that before. So it kind
yeah,
of
because
collapses from the weight.
the nearby water resources have been drying up, and so they have to go far away to bring water. And because they have to go far away and it will take time to go again and again, they want to carry huge load of water at a time. So they carry huge load of water from large distance. So and that is also frequently, like daily, otherwise 2 times in a day. So that is causing that uterine prolapse in women of Nepal, mostly in the remote areas. that is the significant impact in humans and in children, like who needs to get more care, more affection, and more love, from parents, from mostly from women, and when the women are busy in other things, like, and the pressure is also increased due to the changing climate, environmental consequences, so the children get less time, from their parents, so also that will affect ultimately, because in young age they need proper guidance, they need proper love and care, they needs to be taught what is wrong, what is right, like to fight with own emotional turbulences also, so that is the case, like where they are fighting, and also the father of the family, otherwise the biggest person in the family, the youth, who are capable of doing something, they need to go away from their families, so the children will also be deprived of getting their love and care, like those things will affect, it have both direct and indirect impacts.
Also, if girls have to go far away to fetch water, they don't have time to go to school. So it
Yes,
keeps them
yes.
out of school as well. What roughly is the percentage of girls who are in secondary education in Nepal? Do you know roughly?
Not much. I'm sorry for that. I don't much know that data, but I feel that the especially the young girls in remote areas, like where they need to care about their family, where they need to care their cattle, like so in that places the girls are affected because they have very less time to give to education because they have to give their time to in collecting fodder and collecting water and other doing other things. So also they are being deprived of going to schools. So that is
In
also the case.
in your university, what percentage roughly are female students?
More because the female occupy the significant portion. It's like in our class also we are about 41, and in 41 I think there is roughly 10 or 12 male, but everyone is female. And in case of studying, but when in when it comes in terms of work, like completing education and doing further work on the same field, the women population is low because they need to marry at early age, like they need to do other things, like the doing works in this field, like doing research is not a primary option for many of the females, but there are women also, who have been doing best in their field, but the portion is significantly less.
So they're roughly the same as in undergraduates, but then if they marry early, they can't go on to graduate school and to do professional work. Is that
Uh,
accurate?
it's like the number of male is less in terms of studying, like who is pursuing this degree, and but when it comes in terms of work, the number of female is less. But there are also examples of women who have been married, who are married and who are also taking care of their own families, but also pursuing their higher studies.
Hmm.
But the number is less.
Right. Is Nepal like India, where the tradition is the families arrange the marriage, and love marriages are not as accepted as traditional arranged marriages?
Uh, it depends on the society, like on which we depend. But uh, we live in Lalitpur. My home district is Solukhumbu. This is a hilly place, and where there is not much the discrimination, like between love marriage, arranged marriage, and between caste also. They prefer that. But when we go to the Tarai region, and there is mostly the cases of dowry also, like like when you marry someone's daughter, the families, like the family of the girl side would give property to the son in case of dowry, that is case. But also it is like it depends on the people's mindset, but yes, the the thinking of the love marriage, arranged marriage, this affects the process.
So, among young people, is it more common to have arranged marriage or love marriage? Which is more common?
Now I feel it. I feel that love marriage is more prevalent, like is widespread.
Would that be okay with your parents if you picked your own husband in the future?
Yeah, I feel that is okay because my parents, they're also intercaste, from different family. My father is KC, that means a typical Chhetri family, and my mom is Rai, who belongs from Mongolian, like Aryan and Mongolian. In that time, like in before time, there was not much that openness in marriage between the Aryan and the Mongolian people. But my parents are also have also intercaste marriage, and I have also talked with my parents on this case. Like for several times, like if I do this, then what we will do then, like do tell us earlier. But yes, we will allow you that.
Is it like India where you can tell someone's caste background from your last name?
Yes, yes.
So it's really obvious.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what got you involved in being an environmental activist? How did you learn about climate change? And well, you grew up in Kathmandu, so it was right in your lungs. But what made you decide to do something?
It was like in school level also. I read and I knew about the global warming, the acid rain, but not the urgency of this crisis. And I also used to witness the air pollution, the waste pollution, like the water pollutions in Kathmandu. And during the beginning of my bachelor's study, when I was to join my bachelor's, it was like there was three combinations I chose. That was E, C, and B. That was the code of the subject. And C was for chemistry, B was for biology, and E was, I feel that E was for English. But when I went in class, I found that E was not for English, but E was for environment. So that was how the journey started. That was a coincidence for me. And during my first class, like first class of my environmental science, there was a professor who used to work in a NGO of that works for usually climate change and air pollution, air and mobility works at. He taught about, that was the first class, so he did not went much deeper into the course, but he taught about what is happening overall in the scenario, like the climate crisis, the environmental problems we are going. So when I knew about that, I was scared, like at the beginning, and I came back home. I was disturbed, and I researched more on this. Like I read about what's happening in Nepal, what's happening in international context, and how are people suffering with this, and what are the actions being taken. Like, and that thing even disturbed me. I was scared even more, and it was like, like that phase was so much of stressful and so much of anxiety for me. And with this, I also got to participate in a national youth conference on climate change organized by a youth network called Nepalese Youth for Climate Action. And there I met several people, like who were very young people, and we talked about climate change, what is happening, what is needed, and how we can contribute ourselves. So interacting with so many people and learning about much more things on this, that provided me the power, and that also added me the courage. And I concluded that everyone, like no one is immune to climate change, but everyone is affected to it. And if we don't act, we will continue to suffer more and more in coming days. So I decided not to be a victim of climate change, but to be a warrior instead. So I decided myself to contribute in this and work in this sector. So from 2016, I have been engaged in this.
Was that conference in Nepal, or where was it, and who organized it, and who came?
It was organized in Kathmandu, in Bhaktapur district. It was organized by a youth-led network, that is Nepalese Youth for Climate Action. That is typically a youth network that who works for climate emergency. And
that was a Nepalese group.
Yeah. Nepalese Youth for Climate Action. That the name of their group was, and I think around 60 young people from around Nepal, whole Nepal, from different districts. We're studying forestry, we're studying laws, we're studying business, and we're studying environmental sciences. So everyone, young people from different fields from across the world, Nepal, were gathered there. So that was how the conference went.
Mm. And at that first conference that you went to, roughly what percentage were young women?
I feel it was not. I think it was around 60-40, around like it was not equal, but the number of young women was a bit more, I think. But as organizers, they also prefer the equal participation of both male and women. That also affects, but I think there were around, more females than men allowed, 60-40 or something like that.
And what's an example of an action that the group has taken? I mean, they're educating people about the effects of climate change. What kind of specific demands or actions or protests or what have they done?
Like who, the Nepalese Youth for Climate Action, or
Well, first, Youth for Climate Action, and then you, or because they're kind of entwined. So my question is, what has the group done specifically, and then how were you involved?
Okay, yes, thank you. Your voice was interrupted, so that I repeated the question. It's like the Nepalese Youth for Climate Action. It was formed in 2008, and with that time, during from that time, it has been engaging and empowering the young people to act in climate action. Like they have different different chapters across Nepal. Like there are around 13 chapters now, and they mostly empowers and engages young people to act for climate action, and that they do different things like empowering young people and organizing the discussion forums specifically to youth, like group discussions and climate talks. And also they conduct school and college awareness campaigns in different schools, like to aware the young peoples and the young childrens also. And also they organize various programs, like that is more related to speaking and to know about the climate action. And they also submit the petitions and letters to the governments, like they also engage themselves in lobbying policies. That is what they do. And me, it was like in 2016 only when I knew about that group. I was so much interested and I was so much eager, like to join it. And during the first one and a half years, I joined as volunteer. I used to participate in different campaigns of there, and I used to support what I can from there. And after it, I was appointed as the school and college coordinator of the Nepalese Youth for Climate Action. And then I used to lead different school and college level campaigns among schools, among young peoples, and we used to talk about climate change, environmental pollution, plastic pollution, acid rain, these things. And last year in August, it's like it appoints new network coordinators, like who is more responsible to coordinate the whole network. And in August 2019, I was appointed as the network coordinator because I was so much engaged in it. And they appointed me, the former coordinator appointed me as the network coordinator. So it's been around, it's going to be 1 year. It will happen in August, this 2020. And from then, I am working as the network coordinator of the same youth network. And there are 13 chapters and around 300 to 400 people directly engaged with us, like being volunteer, being active team, and different other groups. And we work and we decide, we discuss what needs to be done. So basically, what I do is, being in this network is to coordinate the major activities we do, like overall activities we do, like organizing, as I told before, also organizing the discussion forums, like pressuring the government to care about climate, to prioritize the life and environment, before economy. So we do these things majorly. But specifically when talking about myself, like I feel there are two types of action for me. Like one is direct, another one is indirect. Like direct action is visible, like what I do from Nepalese Youth for Climate Action, organizing different programs, pressuring the governments, organizing rallies, participating in campaigns, demonstrations, lobbying policies, intervention, like providing the youth intervention in different climate change related conferences. That is what I do as a direct form of action. And indirect form of action is like from individuals also, like banning plastic. Like first thing I did was that, and also banning the plastic straws, and trying to use less resource as we can. Like myself also, my family also, like less shopping, and also studying, researching about climate change, and inspiring the young, like new people who are, who just came in this crisis, because who just came to work in this topic, because there are different stresses that people will face, the young people will face, especially when they engage themselves in climate activism, because there are several black holes and loopholes. So that the young people, the new people, they need more inspiration and they need more support and courage. Like I try my best to provide this to the young peoples, to new peoples, new young.
What are those pitfalls that you try to help them avoid? Like burnout, would that be one?
It's like many of us know that what needs to be done in this crisis, like reducing the emissions, and going for a cleaner energies, and banning the large scale animal farmings, like especially the reducing the emissions. But everything is happening, like the governments are also pleading, like we need to do this, we need to do that, and the young peoples, they're also on huge momentum, like what needs to be done, and they are constantly pressurizing and speaking that what needs to be done. But in reality, when we come in ground, that there is not much more happenings. The effects are in fact growing. So when people come across this fact that despite of happenings of the several things on above, the ground thing is not much progressive, and then people find it more stressful. And also there are in Nepal, it's like not much, like the young people's, they are conscious increasingly, the conscious youth is increasing, the mass of the conscious youth is increasing. But also other people who don't know about this, they criticize, and they like makes jokes on this, like, hey, what are you doing, this no nothing, like that. So also that things adds a bit stress on the new people, who have just started this journey.
What do you find is most convincing when you're working with students, say in elementary school or middle school? Because some people say that just facts, the science facts, people don't listen to. So what do you find gets their attention and makes them realize, oh, this really is, it's not just facts, it affects me?
In case of young students or overall youth?
Well, either. How do you convince people that this is something they should take action about?
Like it's like I frequently come to the situation, like when I have to empower them, and when I have to take their attention, to grab their attention, to work on this issue. It's like, because there are everything, not just climate change, but also there are several social injustices happening. There are several unfair things happening, and when it happens, and when a crisis occurs, and when anything problem occurs, it's like it will affect the fair peoples most, like who have done nothing on that, and who are poor, who are vulnerable, and who have been living a friendly life, a natural friendly life. They are in the front line to face that impact. So that is unfair, that is unfair, that is brutal truth. So we need to stand up for what is for wrong things happening. Like we need to say that this is wrong, we need to do that. Like first thing is that is the self-conscience. And second thing is, I say that this climate change and environmental problem is associated, and this is associated, like interconnected. This will not only affect the environment, like it's not only about the trees, it's not only about the water and air, it's about everything, because we all are interconnected. Our life is interconnected. The things we depend on, like air, water, food, like everything we depend upon, that is interrelated. So when we talk about climate crisis, it's not just about the environmental problem. It's also about the social problem. It's also about economic problem. It's also a political problem. So it affects overall all of us. Second one is that, and third one is like no one is immune to climate change. Like even we have so much of riches, so much of experiences, like so much of technology, even we human have that, like we are never immune to climate change if we don't act on it. Like if for example, I say that if there is a sea, like there is a big sea and there is a building nearby, and due to the changing climate and due to the increase in the temperature, slowly gradual increase, there will be the melting of ice in the Himalayas, and that will add up in the rivers, and that waters will overall flow to the sea, and the sea level will rise. And we have money. When we have money, what we do is we build a wall, embankment walls on that. So during that time, we will just invest our money in building that wall, but we will not work to mitigate that. Like we just adapt, but we don't mitigate through that. But sometimes it will be okay for us, but there will come the time will come when we will not be able to construct the wall on that, like the case will not be controllable. So, and during that time we will regret, like we will suffer. But in place of that, if we plant mangroves forest, like near to the sea areas, if we do that, the forest, the mangrove plants, then like the vegetation, they will absorb both the stress, and they will also absorb the water. They will uh, catch the soils of the air. So that is what we call natural friendly solution and mitigating. Like, and if we also mitigate, work to mitigate the emissions that is happening, if we control the emissions that is causing the Himalayas to melt, that is causing the snow level to rise. So if we also work on mitigation, then we will not need to regret that. We will be able to save ourselves and save everything around us. So this is what we say. And often people say that like doing just by you, like just doing by Shreya, just doing by A people or B people is not enough. There needs support. Then there is no support. The global leaders, like most of the countries who have high emissions of the greenhouse gases, like they are mostly passive in this. So how you can alone do this? That people often ask me. Like I say that change, whenever change happens, it starts from individual. Like it doesn't start from a whole big group, but it starts from an individual. Like if we have not been activating for, if we have been speaking for our right to live in a clean and healthy environment, the air we breathe today, the water we drink today, the food we eat, the place we live today would have been much more polluted. Like though there is not, like that big and appreciable much satisfying things happened, like in this climate crisis due to activism, but there are satisfying things, like people are knowing more about these things, and the medias are covering more about this climate change issues, and also the young peoples, like who the young peoples of today, they will replace the leaders of today, like tomorrow the young peoples of today are the leaders of tomorrow. And so when they know about these things from today itself, and when they get engaged to themselves in several campaigns, activism groups, they know the urgency. They feel that what needs to be done in the ground. So also when the young peoples replace the leaders of today, like they will obviously take the actions. They will obviously put the practices that needs to be done. So these are the positive things I deliver to people and to myself also.
Except that the UN report of 2019, the scientists said we've got 12 years, or then it's irrevocable, the changes. So we really don't have time for the young people to take leadership.
Yeah, I feel that. But it's like when we talk about these things, like, but if we just talk about, like these worrying facts, then the energy we have within us, like the zeal to work and climate activism, it will be borrowed far away. So I just want to concentrate the attention of young people that if we act, like we will do, and definitely when the time will come that when we will take leadership, the situation will be worsened by today. Like it will be more catastrophic. There will be more people suffering. There will be more people dying. The biodiversity, more of it will be already extinct. The time that will be difficult. But if we, but if we will be able to take the attention of the leaders of today also, like to saying them that what needs to be done, what is happening wrong, like what will suffer, what will uh, benefit not just environment but also economy, because nowadays the clean energy is being cheaper than the fossil fuels. So if we are able to grasp the attention of the uh, 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 leaders, that if we work on environmental problems, if we work on climate action, that it will not just shape the environment but also it will shape the economy. And if we will be able to uh, represent that reality also, then if the leaders will be convinced on the young people, they will definitely support. So also one thing major I do also is to advocate with the policymakers, like we need young people in the decision making table, we need this, we need that. So that is also an important part.
I'm thinking of Bhutan, which is close to you.
Yeah.
That the Bhutanese government is really environmental. They protect the forests. They don't allow deforestation, and they really protect the environment. I wonder if the Nepalese government is at all influenced by that model.
It's like Bhutan is also the only carbon negative country, and Nepal and Bhutan both lies as least developed country, and the chair of the least developed countries forum, like that is chaired by Bhutan now. And so many of the Nepali policymakers, like Nepal diplomats, they are inspired from the action of Bhutan's. And also it's like the there has been done, like the in 2019 there was the climate change policy was revised and formed in 2019. A new climate change policy has been formed, and which also emphasizes that young peoples, like to educate, to empower the young peoples, to support the women's, to support the local initiatives that also takes that. And there is much more in policies, like that needs to be done, this needs to be done. That is definitely a satisfying thing for us. But when it comes in implementation part, we lag. It's because one thing is we also, like in Nepal, it's like most of it depends on the leaders also, like who is ruling the country, because that things determines and shapes the whole thing. And in Nepal, I feel, like personally, I feel that the men, mostly men who are in leadership, they are there not just because of the education or background skills, like they, much of them don't owe large working experience in environment, climate change. Much of them, they don't own the urgency, but they are there because they have spent many years, fighting for the political revolution. They have spent many years in jail or something, like just fighting for social changes, and so they are there. So I feel the leaders, they lack the thing, like the education things, the background education part, that needs to be here, like what will happen and what is needed. So that is a bit lagging part in this. Also we lag in the proper implementation of the policies, but there has been things, like that has been carried in Nepal also. Like I also wrote the formulation of new climate change policy, and recently it's been around 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, it's like the new environmental policy, like that has also been reformed. So and in in comparison to previous years, the forest coverage is also increased. Now the forest coverage is around 44 point around something. It's around 44%, and now we are celebrating. I think from 2014, we are celebrating the decade of forest. That is thing, and also the number of tigers has been doubled. Like Nepalese government plans to double the tigers in certain durations, but without reaching the deadline, we have doubled the number of tigers. So there are also things that is being happen in the ground, but also like the cooperation between the young peoples and the leaders. Also the closing of the petroleum gas pipes, petroleum pipes, and the investment, like more investment, the prioritization of the clean energy is not much in the place. So that needs to be done, I feel.
So the government acknowledges that there's human contribution to climate change, but they haven't been very effective in implementing the new policies. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I feel that. And also it's like whenever it comes in implementing policies, it's like there should be the what's it interministry ministries coordination. Like if the Ministry of Forest and Environment publishes a new forest policy, then it's not only up to that ministry to implement that. Like the other ministries also who will be engaged in this, who will be related to it, should also work in collaboration. There should be inter-ministerial coordination between them. So that is also a lagging part. And also here is like parties, like political parties, and like some where they agree, some where they don't agree, and there will be conflict and crisis. And so, and also the government, mainly the government is unstable here. So whenever a government, like if if a government named A is appointed, then if he gets like more time, like around 5 years to sit in the prime minister position, then he will definitely do something because he have got that time. But due to the instability of the government, and he will be changed continuously, like frequently, and the works initiated by him will not be, like mostly will not be carried by the another who comes in position. So that also affects. But it's been a few years that the government has been stable, so let's hope for something good, positive things.
What tactics do you use to influence the government? Like in the States, there's a group called the Sunrise Movement, and they occupied Congress, the legislators' offices. They did sit-ins and signs and that kind of thing to ask for this Green New Deal. I wonder what tactics you find make them pay attention and say, oh, okay, we've got to do something.
Yeah, it's like I feel that whenever a campaign is laid somewhere, it's like it will not be same, and it will not be same in every country, like because the peoples, the places, the scenario of the mindset, that will be different. So there will, like it's not like that a campaign which is successful in a place will be successful all over the world. And in Nepal also, like because many people are still not known about this crisis, and many they know but they don't acknowledge the urgency. Like you also told before that now we are in 2020, and we just have 10 years to avoid this crisis. We just have 10 years to achieve the 17 sustainable development goals. So many of them, they don't acknowledge this, they don't know the urgency. First thing is that. And whenever we want to pressurize the government, whenever we want to make our voice heard, it's like we first thing is what we do is protest, like carrying different placards, that is a silence demonstration. It will not be violent, but we just carry our voice, like what is needed to be done, like declare climate emergency in Nepal, like that may be otherwise stop the new petroleum pipelines, invest in clean energy. If our voice is there, then we write in big banners and we protest in front of the parliament, but Parliament House or nearby to it, because they don't permit to protest us in front of the Parliament House. The police will chase us away, but we will do in nearer places of that. And second thing we do is also a hackathon, that is like writing something, like in social, that is a form of social media protest. Like if we want something, like if I want to make my voice heard, that is like close the petroleum pipelines, then writing that, and otherwise writing in a poster and clicking on a photo and posting social media with hashtag and mentioning the peoples in power. Like if there is a popular name, that is a popular mention, that is Hello Sarkar, we say that is directly relatable to the government. Sarkar means government in Nepal, in English, and that is if we write that Hello Sarkar, then Hello Sarkar, and we mention the name of the prime minister, we mention the name of the people who needs to be heard in the social media, and we continuously post, repost, share, comment, so that they will be forced. Like if we mention them one time, they will not see. Two times they will not see. But if we mention them again and again, again and again by many people, then they will obviously see that message. Like, oh, young people are saying that. So that has also been effective. And another thing is we write letters. Like in 2019 only, it was like the government was going to open a new petroleum pipeline from India, and we wrote an open letter to the Prime Minister like that to stop the uh, that petroleum pipeline, because the clean energy is already being more cheaper, and our neighboring countries, India and China, they are also working heavily to move to the electric vehicles and electric cars and to clean energy. So we also need to move to the cleaner energy future. So we also wrote that letter, and like submitting them to the social medias. And last thing is like emailing. Like we collect their mail address and we email them, because if we send message in Facebook or something like that, maybe not seen. Like they may not get that attention. But if we email them, then they will obviously read. And we also call, like we also call them, like this is happening, that is happening. And sometimes we also go to meet them in their places. Like there is the House of Parliament, not House of Parliament, but uh, the place is called Singha Darbar. Singha Darbar. This is a Nepali. It means Singha means lion in English, and Darbar means palace. Lion's palace. And there is many of the ministries, like the Minister of Forest and Environment, Minister of Foreign Affairs, and that. So when we also talk with them in phones, and we manage pass to go inside, and we also go there and discuss what is happening. So this is the things we do. But mostly we do here is that we'll be silence, but we work our best. We do our best to make our voices reach to them. And the violent demonstrations are not much practiced here.
No. What are your main social media platforms? Twitter and Instagram? It's common
Yeah.
elsewhere.
Mostly is Twitter, because most of the higher personnel authorities, they are in Twitter, and mostly is Twitter we do. And second one is Facebook, because we mention them in our post. And third one is also emailing, also like emailing what is being done, and Instagram also is thing. And last one is email also, like what is need to be done, like many people emailing the same content to the same person at the same time. So that will increase the effectiveness.
In the villages, I'm wondering roughly what percentage of people have access to internet. Do they have mobile phones, cell phones, and they can get the internet, or is that mostly just in the cities?
Yes, the internet is mostly easily available in cities, but now it is being available to the remote area, in village areas also. But there are also parts like that is so remote where there is no electricity, where the people don't have access to electricity also. So in that places, people have no access to internet. But in the places where there is access to electricity, many people, they have the internet. So but the cost, and the speed may be slowed, and the cost may be high. But yes, there is, but the access needs to be increased.
Do they access it on their phones, not on computers?
Yeah, mostly I think they use on phones. And also the internet, one is the Wi-Fi connection, and then is data. And the data is the internet data packages can also be taken in I think in with cheap prices, because we are in lockdown, and many of the people they need the internet connection, to get connected and to know what's happening around in others' life, in what's happening in nation, what's happening in the globe. So also the telecom services, they have cheapened the price of the internet data packages also. That has also added relief and benefit too.
When you're doing protest marches, or when you get a sense of who's really being active, roughly what percent are female, and why do you think it is that globally young women are the leaders in climate activism?
While doing any campaigns, protests, or any sort of activism works, the portion of the young people is more, like it is, sorry, that is more, and the portion the females is definitely high than the males. I said before also, like 60, 40, 70, the number of the females is definitely more, and the number of the young female climate activists around the world is also high, in compared to the male. I feel that is because the women, they are generally kind, like uh, they are kind, and so they know that what other peoples are going through, and what is being done, like that. And there is one saying also, like that: if you want anything to be said, say a man, but if you want anything to be done, say a woman. And like, it's not been it doesn't, the leadership and the works doesn't should not depend on the gender basis, but I feel it is applicable to the majority of ones, like the women leaders, like of Germany and of New Zealand, Taiwan. They are also proving demonstrating their leadership skills. I feel that is because they are empathetic. They know which peoples are suffering most, what needs to be done, like what needs to be done in the ground, not just speaking and that we lost, but doing things on the ground. I think that is the thing. First one is women are kind and empathetic, and the second one is they are sensitive also. Like when something, any change is happening, when any problems happens, otherwise, like if the community is distressed by flood, if the island is lost due to the increasing sea level, and if they are suffered through the glacial lake outburst flood, the women, they are affected most. First thing is they are affected most, and second one is they're sensitive. Like most of the women of now, like of today's world, they are speaking on the injustice happening, because these things are also a form of injustice, a form of unfair things to the peoples of, like developing countries of the global south, like the peoples of Nepal, who have very less contribution in this, but we lie as the top 5 countries, to face the burden of the changing climate. So that is the thing. Second one is they are sensitive, and also they are more cooperative. They listens more. They listens to everything, and they like they know what needs to be done. Like this is wrong. This is not good. So everything that is happening, that is very bad. So they engage themselves. Like they with their that innate qualities. Like of being empathetic, being kind, being compassionate. Like being listening to everyone. And also empowering and inspiring, and supporting peoples around them. Like they feel this as their own. Like they own this issue. Like climate change is happening. Like like in this way, every one of us are in. They own that issue. But I feel in case of men, like not much more, but also mostly not just case in terms of climate change and climate change only, but in terms of other things also where they are related. I feel they lack to own that issue. Like own that issue as their issue. Like they just view this as a terms of work or something, like terms of doing something, like not just contributing self. So I think that things also affects. That's why female young climate activists are becoming increasingly, like the numbers have been increased in recent days.
I read an article on toxic masculinity, and it said that part of the reason that the countries that have done really well with the COVID virus are led by women is like for Trump and Pence in the US, wearing a mask is seen as unmasculine. It's like, oh, if I wear a mask, I will look like I'm weak or something. So toxic masculinity and ego seems to play a part too. And Bolsonaro in Brazil is another one who wanted to deny the.
I think yes, and also a study shows that the country who has more women, in leadership, who more women who is occupying the seat, who is like where the most of the women are in the field, like of this environment, climate change, ministers, women ministers, where the countries they have, it's like the policies, like they are being more properly effective and more properly implemented in the countries where they have the women leaders in case of the male leaders. So that is also an example of this.
Why do you think it is that your generation is uniquely able to take leadership at a young age? I mean, you hear of climate activists who are 9 and 11 and 5 and whatever. I don't think other generations, you had 11-year-old spokespersons, or Greta was 15 when she took on leadership. What makes your generation so in the vanguard, so forward looking?
It's like we speak, like we do activism works. It's not like because we want to do this, like because we need to do this. We don't have option, like when we study about, because most of the young people are educated, they know what is happening, like they know the science behind this. They know the gaps, like what is needs to be done and what is happening in the reality. They knows that, and so because we don't have that more time also to just to engage ourselves with the blame game, like this is not done by us, this is not done by, this is the responsibility of the older generation, this is the responsibility of the developed countries. We can engage ourselves, we don't have that time to engage ourselves in that blame game. We just have few years left where we can invest, contribute own self, like doing the best from ourselves, doing the best from individual, doing the best from groups, like being working in collaboration. We just have that few years where we can redefine the history, like of climate action. It's like many of the young activists, they think about the future. Like whenever now I am 11 years old, in 2030, like I will be about 9 years old, like seeing the future. Like now I am 22 years old, and whenever in 2050 I will be this much years old, and then I will have my grandkids, grandchildren, like my children, where I will say them, like I will tell them the stories of change, like that. What was the thing, like what was the crisis at that time, and how we united, as young people, how we united as a group, how we act, as responsible citizens, and we saved the world. So the that thing strikes everyone, every young people to act rather than like in 2015 saying that oh, we had that time and no one worked. Just there was just like blame game. It was not our responsibility also, so that you are suffering. So it's like protecting ourselves also, like protecting our generations. The 10 years is in our generations, and also protecting the future of the coming generations. So that thing is what adds the urgency on us, like because we have less time and because there is much more to do, and we are only the generations, like who can do this. There will be no other generations who will come and who will change these things. But we are only the generations who can do. We can do a change which can create an impact. We can create a ripples in changing, in diverting the like the graph, like from the emissions high to this much. So we are the most important generation the earth will ever hold. So every young people acknowledges this fact, so that they are increasingly being engaged at young age, and also like at certain ages in this issue.
Do you think that social media made it possible? Could they have the kind of impact that you have without social media? Is it imperative?
Yeah, social media. Yes, I believe that social media, like the increasing access to the internet, like the social media platforms, is also benefiting this momentum, because as Greta, when she started, she was 15, and if there could not have been the social media, like if there was not much wider coverage from the Sweden news at the beginning, like a girl of 15 who is standing in front of the Parliament House, like demanding school strike, like with the placard "School Strike for Climate," and so if that was not covered widely in the media, like, and if the peoples of our countries, like other countries have not heard that, then that could be, like dissolved, and the momentum could be a bit less, like a bit dilute. But that was covered hugely at first by the Sweden media, and then other like international media agencies also. So also that was an inspiration, because for people, like for the youth like us, who was 21, who is 22, who is 60, 18, are like that, like a girl of 15 is doing this, then why I can do this, like I have also that power, I also want to do that. Then that will definitely change that. And also another thing is what is happening, like recently the peoples in Bangladesh, they were affected by I think typhoon, like I forgot that name, but Amphan or something typhoon, and India was hit by floods last year. Like in Kerala and Nepal also, the Tarai peoples, they are mostly, the floods has been like a festival. Like they come yearly, they kill many peoples, and also the climate-induced disasters in Haiti, in other places. When people know more about this, when the young people read more about this in news, like in shared by the also shared by their elder peoples, their teachers, their friends, their colleagues, then this will also add, like that courage, and also that inspire also, like yes, we should do that, this is happening. We can only do this, like that's why we need to do this. So social media is definitely benefiting the increasing, increasing the climate change momentum.
In the West, I don't know if it's true there. There's a sense that social media's negative effect is it leads to more anxiety and depression among teens, especially girls, in terms of body image and feeling left out or whatever. So, do you think that's a Western issue, or is there more anxiety and depression among teens in your area?
Uh, Specific to climate activism
No,
or
no.
broader things? It's like everything I told before also. First thing, when we need to be, like as an individual, as a people, because the world is constantly changing. The world is so dynamic. There are many changes happening, and in that changes there relies many lies, many, like unfair things, many miseries, many tears of the unfair people. So we need to acknowledge the fact that, like being a people, being just a simple a citizen, we need to acknowledge the fact that the world is not pure. Like everything, it is dotted with things, but we can make, like if we work in this, we can make definitely better on that issues. And social media, yes, as you told also, it is both benefiting in terms of increasing the momentum, in terms of this outreach, but it is also, like it depends on people also, like some people by nature, they are more worrying, they see the negative things more prominently than the positive thing. It depends on the people also, but it is, yes, but it is affecting. And during this lockdown period also, because everyone is entrapped in homes, it's been around more than 3 months we are in home in Nepal, like, and the situation is rather worsening. The government is not doing much actions, like the youths are protesting in the streets with enough is enough, like uh, apply better quarantine measures with slogans like that. And it's like you see that everything happening is unfair and that needs to be changed. Everything is happening. So that also adds an anxiety, stress. But I feel that, like that's my personal vision, that if we just continue to worry, on the anxieties, on the negative things happening, we'll just continue to suffer, we'll just be a victim. And that will affect our physical state, that will affect our mental state, that will affect our performance, that will affect our health, everything that will affect. But if we choose to be a warrior, like everything is bad happening, but we can do something, like a small thing, but small thing also, that because that will create ripples, like it will create other people. If I do something, then that may inspire 10 people, that may inspire 100 people. Otherwise, in case of Greta, that can inspire millions of people, like. So we need to invest in, like we need to convert that worries and anxieties in action, so that taking worries, being worried and also doing will be useful. The being worrying, like being sad, feeling the pain, feeling anxiety, that is reasonable. That is quite reasonable because the world is like this. But if we be able to convert those anxieties in our action, then definitely that will, the negative force will fuel a positive transformation. I believe that.
Is the government or professionals talking about a mental health problem with increasing anxiety for teens, or is it not discussed? Is it acknowledged as an issue?
In case of Nepal or global?
Nepal. I know it is globally, but I don't know Nepal.
I think not much. The government, they are not much discussing about the impacts of the lockdown, impacts of other things in the mental health, because we, we are in a phase of developing state. We still lie in the least developed countries, and there is several more things, like basic things like food, water, like shelter, the things that prioritizes before the mental health. That mental health is important, but that is not much prioritized. The thing that that gets utmost priority is the food, drinking water, shelter, that is things. So the government, they, like some of them are discussing, like it's not like that nothing has been touched in this issue, but there is the thing, but like when seeing from the government lens, that is insufficient. But the professionals, like who are in hospitals, who are working in hospitals, who are nurses and who are teaching school children, like in online, and the parents, the children also, they are consistently talking more about this mental health issue. And also it's like the number of suicide rates in Nepal is has been increased so much in this lockdown period, because the young people, who have just started their work, their business in failure, and many of the, like they are entrapped in the kind of valley, and or sometimes they are entrapped in other places. They are far away from their family. They see, like different bad things happening, and they don't have much, like enough money and enough other facilities. They don't have. They can go outside to engage with people, so that they gets entrapped, like own self. Just they don't get anyone to share their feelings, what's happening. So also that is also affecting, so that the suicide rates in Nepal, it's so high in Nepal. Like the number of deaths of COVID-19 is just 34. That is more, but in case of suicide, that is the suicide rate is so much higher than the COVID rates. And also the panics, like because Nepal is developing country, it doesn't own much adequate or much better facilities of health services. It doesn't have high number of hospitals, ventilators. And if people's continue, like the number has been increasing day by day in this rate, then there will come a time when, like people will die, like, like many peoples will die at a time. So, and that also, like adds the anxiety that will also troubles them. So there are several things associated with this. So also because of this also, without COVID-19 also, there was much stresses on us, like in several things, like of business, of money, of education, of working. Several things was there beside COVID-19 also, but this COVID-19 has definitely added that list, that burden list, and so many people are dying, like are doing suicide in this time.
Are you positive? Are you optimistic or pessimistic when you think of the future? Do you think we're going to turn it around in 10 years? Optimist or pessimist?
It's like I am optimistic because we should be, I'm optimistic because we should be. And talking, like seeing from the realistic lens, like what is happening real, then that will definitely add, like sad things, like okay, oh, the climate change was discussed since 1992, like it was majorly discussed since 1992. The major, climate change convention, it's already been 25 years. There has been several policies, and but also the action, it is insufficient, that is list. And so that, and also the time create like just 10 years, like the achievement, the time to avert this crisis is just 10 years. So that will add, like more urgency, like more urgency. Oh, this is happening, like in 10 years, 9 years, in 2021 it will be 9 years, 2022 it will be 8 years. So we are slowly, gradually, that reaching that time, reaching the deadline, but the work is still not being done. And and the sad and then the worst thing I feel is the, like top 5 countries, top 10 countries who owns majority of the emission. Like it was like in 2019 also, the top 10 countries who were responsible, like for the majority of the greenhouse gas emissions was occupying around 70% of the total greenhouse gas emissions. And the top 5 countries like US,
China.
Russia, like China, India also. So they are not acknowledging that we should do, like this is the time to do and this is the time to do action. So unless and until the, like those countries, those peoples who have high emissions and like who have high contribution acknowledges that yes, we should do this now, then the situation will be more, like difficult. So being realistic, that will add a bit sad things to me, but also being optimistic, like seeing the huge youth momentum going global, and the requirement of the young leaders in today's position also. For example, in Afghanistan, there is a very young focal point for, like focal point for climate change, and there are other young peoples, in different countries like in Dominican Republic, in Peru, in our neighboring countries also. The young people, they are slowly being recognized and they are being incorporated in the decision making table. So these things also adds optimistic on me. And but to sum up, to sum up, I am optimistic because I should be, and we all should be optimistic.
Mm. Do you ever face burnout? And if so, how do you kind of keep your batteries charged, so to speak? What do you do for fun to renew yourself and feel happy?
It's like sometimes, and in beginning also, I used to be, like mostly stressed about this thing, like oh, this is thing, and also when we go to new young peoples, like most of them, they carry their jokes, like oh, this is this, and like they just criticize. And the things also, like the government actions and the things also that used to add stress on me. Now also sometimes, like whenever we are engaging ourselves, like giving much of our time, like separating time from studies, separating time from self, also separating time from families, we engage ourselves in the climate activism work. Now we are activating against airport to be formed, that is called Nisgar International Airport, and if completed, that is said to be the second, like biggest international airport, and that will be an airport hub in the South Asia, and that will have more economic benefits. But the reality is that the environment impact assessment, that carries the studies of that overall studies like that, that is found to be faulty, like that is found to be copied something. And there will be around, if that airport is to be constructed, uh, the science, the researchers say that 2.4 million, 24 lakh trees will be cut down, and that place is also a corridor of elephant, tiger. That place lies near to a national park, and like, and the tribes people live there. And if the airport is constructed there, then due to the forest loss, there will be the increasing wild, human animal conflict, and the water resource in the nearby river will dry up because there will be no forest to absorb the water. And so there is not only the terms of trees, but also there is the case of peoples affecting the wildlife, the economy also, because the study is also not done properly, that this much will be benefited or something like that. So, and also the experts say that if because we have not, taken permit of the air issues, and also because of the India and China, the neighboring countries, they have huge airports already, then our scope will not be, like as we assume today, that will not be today, only there will be loss. And so we are activating against this. And if, like we are doing everything, like organizing protest rallies, like drafting concept notes, we are being busy engaging ourselves in this, and we are hopeful that we will be able to convince the government that we need an international airport, but let's shift, but let's shift the airport to another place. Like let's not do in that place, because airport can be constructed anywhere. Like if we do much research, then there we cannot have that, like that much rich pristine forest, but we can shift the airport to a new place. So if we can convince, then we will be obviously happy. Like we will obviously believe more in activism. But if the case is like the how much we are protesting, and if the government allows, like the government is already allowed, and if the airport construction starts, and if there will be the cutting of the trees, then like if we will not be able to stop this, then that will definitely add, like so much pressures, because we have contributed much in this, like giving not time to self, but also giving time to this issue, because we know that this is not only about us, it's also about our generations, and we will all in this same circle, we are in the same boat, and we will all affect. That is the thing. And that was an example. And it's like I want to read, like my hobby is reading, watching, reading new books, like reading these climate change related projections, and also reading what all the young people have been doing in their countries, like from Philippines to uh, Bulgaria to US to Nepal to India to China, to Africa, what young people are doing and what contribution, like what changes have they achieved. So whenever I read that, whenever I feel that, and I also communicate with my friends, like in Nepalese friends, national friends also, and I share them that this is happening, that is happening, and they also share their experiences, and that also, like adds the zeal, the batteries will charge up. And another thing I do is like hiking. Like hiking is the best thing I do, because whenever we get time to spend among the forest, among trees, among the greeneries, the chirping of the birds, the silence, the air, like so that definitely that automatically adds more charge to me, and makes me more realize that yes, we need to act, like to save this forest, to save this, like beautiful natures we have around us. So if we don't act, then this will be also be lost. So that thing is what I do.
Mm. So, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? You'll be finished with university, you'll be in graduate school, and then where would you like to work? What kind of work?
It's like I have not much, like seen my uh, in 5 years, but I feel that I will already be completing my bachelor's degree, and I will definitely complete my master's study, and I may, in terms of study, I may start my PhD work, because I want to, like do my PhD in climate change, and I may start that. And another thing I will be doing is like I want to form a climate cafe, like a cafe where people will just talk about climate. There will be not more things, but people will just be discussing, like talking about climate, environment, what is happening, like just to ignite the passion in them, like to ignite the passions in the already activists, and also the new peoples we don't know about them. Like they will come with their friends, they will come with their relatives, and they will just discuss about climate and environment. I want to have that cafe, like, and that will be named as Climate Cafe. I may give a specific Nepali name to it, but I want to have that. That is the thing. And also, as I told before, also I want to get, like engage myself with more children and young peoples. Children is that whenever we teach them something, they take that thing in their action so immediately. It's like in before, I also used to teach in a school, and during that time, I got to know, I got to learn about the sensitivity of the children, the innocent, the purity of them. And once I taught them that plastics is harmful, like it's not, that is not harmful to you, but that is harmful to the birds, that is harmful to the other insects, that is harmful to the animals living in the marine, in marine places. They don't know anything about this. We are human beings. We know that this is plastic. We should not eat this. But in case of other plants and animals, like cows, dogs, and birds, and other fishes in the ocean, they don't know about this. They feel that they are not men, like they don't have that much thinking ability, so they will eat that, and ultimately a plastic created by you will cause a death of a living animal. Like I visualized those things, and from next day I felt that no one brought the tiffin in plastic packaged food.
That's
No
great.
one of them brought that food in that. I was so touched with it, like I have my tears in my eyes because I was saying this thing continuously to the young people also. The impact was so less, in them. But whenever I taught that in the school children, they were definitely, like they were in that issue, and maybe they told their parents like their impact, and if their parents did not, like agreed, like to cook the homemade food also, they may have been, like being angry, they may have been cried or something, so that every one of them, they brought home packaged food. So that was inspiring. So I want to engage myself because I have seen closely the impacts, like we get when we invest in the children and the young leaders, youth people. So I also want to, not as a paid teacher or something, but just as an outsider, who will support the students in learning about the environment, caring about the nature, like learning about the processes that what is happening, and also engage and also visit different colleges to talk about climate change, what is happening, what we can do, like such things is needed. And also, I don't know much, but I may be working in an independent, non-profit research organization also. So that
Well,
may be
if
the
you get a
scenario.
PhD, then you could be a professor.
Yeah, because I want to teach also, like because I have taught for 2 years science and environment in a local school, and there then I got, like I learned many things, not just about the course, but also other things, like being passionate, like being empathetic, knowing what other students are going through, like, and being kind, like being having the passions to listening to others, like helping, working in groups. So these are the traits that the school taught me, like the teaching experience taught me. So also I feel that teaching will not just, like you will not just teach a page of a book, like not just what is global warming and not just what is acid rain, but also other lively things, like to cope up with the mental things and to helping the peoples and community, like because those things are not much taught in our education level, like to cope up with the mental stresses, because that is the important thing that is needed. So that's taught in our studies. So I will, like I want to teach that beyond the course levels, like not just the pages of a book, not just the non-living pages of the books, but also the living characters, that what we can do these things. So after completing my masters, not I'm just in my bachelor's, so after completing my masters, and if I will be able to join my PhD, then at that time I may teach in my college also, because I sometimes tell my teachers that in this during this time, if I completed my master's, if I completed my PhD, then I will come to the same college and I will teach. Would you give me this opportunity? And my teachers will say, just come, we'll give you that opportunity. That things.
That's great. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you'd like to add in terms of how to be an effective activist, how to make change, how to take care of yourself? Anything that we've haven't discussed?
We covered most of the things, but the raising concern is of the feminism, like the ecofeminism parts, and also one thing is about being an effective change maker, like that. I think we forgot those things.
So do you think of yourself as a feminist?
Yes, I'm a feminist, but for me, the definition of feminist rebel, I feel that feminism is like, prioritizing, like giving equal opportunities to all the sex, not just female, like just not just female, but all sex, like not just male and female also, but there are transgender, like LGBT communities, LGBTIQA, there are many things on that. So prioritizing opportunities, equally to all the sex present, all the sex present in the society, so that society will not need a concept, like just a term named as feminism, because there will be no need of it, because everyone will be equally prioritized. They will be equal. They will get equal opportunities. They will get equal space, and they will get equal, and they will be mainstreamed equally in the development, in other opportunities and freedom. Like so. I feel that is what feminism stands for me.
And what about tactics for being an effective change maker that we haven't talked about?
I feel, yeah, we touched in these things also in our previous question, but specifically is like first is to learn, learn and inspire, because learn and inspire self and inspire other people also, because if we don't know what is happening in the ground, like if we just depend, if we just listen and what others are telling, like what just my friends is telling, not just what my teachers are telling, but also if we read the facts, like scientific research, the facts, the primary sources, of the knowledge. Is first thing is to learn, like so that we will be able to grasp the like depth of the situation, like so that accordingly to it we will continue to shape our activism, our campaigns on that. And second one is learn, and second one is inspire. Like I told before, also learn about the different successful campaigns happening around the world, like Me Too, hashtag Black Lives Matter, like hashtag Fridays for Future, so hashtag Hey campaign. So there are several campaigns that is happening and that is making change. So to that will inspire yourself, that will add motivation, that will add passion, that will add courage to yourself. That will be much needed, in this journey. And also the team, because you cannot walk alone. You are not alone, you should not walk alone. But in your team also, you can form a team of people, like who is concerned in this issue, like who is not concerned but who wants to do something also, so that you can teach them also, and also inspire them that why action is important, like why the action we do today will have the rippling impacts in the future, like why the every single small things that that we may feel is small thing, but that is huge, like in terms of the global cases, so that will add equal motivation and equal urgency for them also to raise in this issue. And there is communication, like the communication is the biggest trait needed whenever we work in team, whenever we work in ourselves also, because if we don't communicate, because if I have any bad things, like if I am uh, passive about climate action, like if I'm passive about, nothing is going to happen, it's 10 years, and it will be 10 years, and the entire human civilization, the entire world, the earth will be a dying planet. If I think that, like, because people will feel that, if I just think that if I don't communicate to other people, then other will not know that what I'm going through. But if I talk to a senior, to a fellow climate activist, otherwise other activists, like, oh, I feel this, like what can I do? Can you suggest me something? Then the other people will definitely help. Like it will not add the like the conflict between self. Like am I doing good thing and am I doing bad thing? So communication is also an important part. And last one is taking action. Like because whenever we learn, whenever we inspire also, and we communicate also, but there's a thing that called as climate anxiety or something, like that adds the trouble on us, like that, because this is happening, and whether our activism will work or not, like whether people will be convinced or not, whether I will be go in that campaign and will be able to speak or not, like those things will also add. And we should turn that anxieties, like that fuels that anxiety to fuel our action, so that we can take those actions, that because we feel that whenever we talk about anything, like we feel, oh, they should do this, they should do that, like we can tell many things, like government should do these things, young people should do these things, like my mom should be doing this, my brother should be doing this. But whenever it comes like what you can do, like what you can do and what are you doing, then people usually feel empty because they don't have anything to say. But so that we not just like not to point others also, like much others also, like just asking also that what you have been doing, what I have been doing, what I have been contributing, like so fueling that climate anxiety into action is also an important part in being effective change maker.
Yes. What international groups you mentioned? Fridays for Future. Are there other international youth-led climate groups that you look to, that you follow, get inspired by?
Yeah, first one is XR, that is Extinction Rebellion. That was started in UK, I think, and they have three main demands like uh, declaring UK climate neutral by 2030 or something, and to have a climate, like a people-led citizens assembly or something like that. They have three main demands, and they are known as like the Extinction Rebellion (XR). They are mainly known as renowned as hardcore activists. Like they do several protests, dramas. They block the roads. Like whenever the prime minister is coming, they just sleeps in the road, so that they just sleeps in the road, and so that the that will be interrupted, and other peoples will come with a large banner, and they say that declare climate emergency or something like the banner, so that the prime minister will see that issue. And also they perform. They also organize peaceful, like the meditation programs also, so that people will be able to focus, and they will be able to get away from the stress. And now they have many national chapters also. In Nepal also there is a chapter that is called Extinction Rebellion Youth Nepal or something, Extinction Rebellion Nepal, and where a friend of mine is engaged. First is that, and second one is of course the Fridays for Future, because in Fridays for Future, in Extinction Rebellion there is the youth people also, but there are also the peoples beyond the youth groups also. Like the old peoples, the teachers, the professors, the scientists, the policymakers also. They are in that in Extinction Rebellion. In Fridays for Future, mostly it is guided by the young peoples. Like up to 20, 25. From there is a girl named Shreya KC from India. She is 8 years old, and she has also initiated many, like big campaigns, big protests in India, and she's constantly asking that she's constantly asking the parliament, the government of India to pass a climate change law, that things. And the Fridays for Future is mostly guided by the young people. They are very young, so I also look up to them, that things. And these are the major two campaigns, like global campaigns I look up to find the knowledge, to find out the encourage, to find out the inspiration also. And third one I can relate is 350.org. There is also a huge and it has several chapters also. So there is also many young people who is engaged in it, and it has also many information, like to give us that, because the media things, they are not always like just true things, because many of the media things also, they may have been misguided. They may have been influenced by the the business makers or something. So these what's it, these global campaigning organizations, networks provides also the truthful information.
Thank you.